Poland has become or is becoming the G20 economy, that's just going to solidify that position, hopefully. And with the UAE as the leading economy in the GCC and the MENA region, I think they both have great qualities to offer to each other.
Welcome to 31C Data Talk today with Bart Pietruszka. Bart, pleasure having you on the show.
Yaron, thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Of course. My name is Bart. I'm the CEO of Refocus AI. I'm also the former Chief Data and Analytics Officer at HSBC and the Vice Chairman of the Board at the Polish Business Council in Dubai.
You spent a decade in the banking industry. You left building an AI company. So what told you need to do the shift and moving from the banking into creating an AI company?
Right. Good question. Thank you. I mean, first of all, I would like to say that HSBC is a great company to work at, right? And when I joined them, I just planned to stay there for maybe a year or two. But as soon as you start living and working there, you can change jobs so many times that it feels like a different new job every time you make a change. So I really enjoyed that time. But back, I think in 2023, AI felt like another kind of internet moment for me. So it was similar to, when businesses, for example, in the past moved from a paper-based economy into digital economy. So I wanted to diversify. I wanted to go to many different places. I always wanted to kind of live the world of a consultant. And then I decided to founded the Refocus AI to focus on practical adoption and implementation and building value rather than kind of just the AI hype.
Yeah. And what do you see AI is going right now?
The way I see AI changing now is, for example, Copilot. If we spoke just a few months ago, I would tell you that it's a lot behind other tools like Claude, ChatGPT. But right now, I think Microsoft has invested so much in Copilot that for companies that already use Microsoft 365 suite, it's the natural place for them to develop and use this as a tool. So if you now use it natively in Excel, in Outlook, and PowerPoint, it can generate and make changes to the existing documents if you allow the editing function. So I think that's where it's going to go. To answer your question, it's going to be a kind of a tool that is embedded in the business processes and embedded in your solutions that you've been using for the last decade or so. So I think it will then provide you with the personalized or even hyper-personalized output and with the functionalities that you didn't have before.
You personally drove like 26 million in revenue for data monetization, right? So most organizations sitting on data, they don't know how to make money. They don't know how to monetize that. Where do you see the biggest untapped opportunity right now with data?
I think the biggest opportunity is actually many companies still haven't tapped to their data sources, right? They haven't cleansed it. Their data quality is poor. Whilst if you use your data correctly, you can either provide cross-selling services to your existing clients. So make a better use of what you already have. You can do the customer segmentation and define the proper customer journeys and pathways. You can increase the customer experience by using the data that you already have, for example, through customer sentiment analysis. So the biggest opportunity, and AI can do a lot of that, and there are certain tools in the market that can help with this, is to actually use what you already have. That's number one. Number two, I would probably say it's identifying what's your new strategic direction in the world of AI, because it's not going to stay the same. I believe the expectation will be that you can grow your portfolio over the next 2-3 years, for example, without increasing your headcount, because the tools are becoming so much smarter and the data you have is becoming more efficient and better used, so that without a major investment in your CapEx, OpEx, etc., investment in hiring, you can use the tools that are in the market, but you have to invest in the licenses, subscriptions, etc. We know that some of the jobs will stop existing. Even the legal jobs or paralegal jobs are probably ones that will be also one of the first ones to be impacted. However, I think on the back of it, we'll see a whole lot of new jobs that will be created, and they will focus on adding human value to the equation, or they will focus on empathy. They will focus on providing human judgment or approving. They will focus on responsibility and ethics. So there will be plenty of different new jobs that will be created on the back. I don't know what's going to be the kind of end result, whether we're going to lose more jobs and create less, or vice versa. But I know that there's going to be a shift like it happened with any single change in the past, for example, with the Industrial Revolution as well.
What would someone like advise their kids, how they can prepare themselves for the future?
Yeah, That's not the question that only you ask. We had a similar question coming from a recent AI in HR training that we delivered. What we came up with at the end is a list of several traits that we would all like to see in our kids, but also it applied to the employees in the end. So this would be, for
Yeah.
instance, critical thinking, right? So being able to distinguish what's the most important thing blocking me from advancing, for instance. Or there could be empathy, right? So and emotional intelligence. So how to apply that in your daily work to achieve better results or to build better relationships. Collaboration would be another one where a lot more emphasis should be on how we collaborate with others. Are we being respectful, but are we also achieving the goals of the company? And then another one would be, for example, project work, right? So how do we move from the hierarchical companies towards project driven companies where you'll have different pods and people mixing up, having business knowledge, having SME expertise, having AI knowledge, having domain knowledge, for example, HR, coming together to build one piece. So,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to answer the same question for my kids, and I think these are the ones. Fourth thing I would add there is probably the lifelong learning. So I would encourage all the kids and companies as well to not be afraid of experimenting, and that includes AI as well. Don't be afraid to
Yeah.
experiment, even if you fail.
You've been involved in banking a lot. So banking, telecom, government, really a lot of regulation industries, a lot of concerns regarding privacy. How would you advise them to implement AI in the right way?
I think regulation often creates better AI, not worse AI, if I were to be honest. Because the most valuable AI systems are not necessarily the fastest ones. They are the ones that people trust, right? And these ones are the ones where human oversight would remain critical, right? Especially in high impact decisions. Human in the loop controls should be built into every important AI driven process. That means that, it can slow the adoption initially, but I would expect that in the long term, it would produce more reliable outcome. And in many cases, regulated sectors will deliver, I would say, a safer and more trustworthy AI product than unregulated sectors. And in the long term, people will trust that a lot more. So the trustworthy AI will I think, ultimately outperform uncontrolled AI.
So let's talk about the next generation of leaders. But how do you see how is the next generation of leaders and entrepreneurs going to look like?
So curiosity, I would say, also, and asking the better questions will become more valuable than the technical expertise alone. And leaders have to be also comfortable operating with the environment where change is constant, right? The existing models change every 2-3 months so drastically that you can expect this is going to be the and another thing I would say that for the leaders it's the same as with the younger ones, right? They would have to cascade the message that lifelong learning is no longer optional and it will become a survival skill. So those people that are not educated and are not attending any AI trainings, they're just staying behind, right? And the most successful professionals will not be those with the highest qualifications in the future, but those that can continuously kind of reinvent themselves and find the new skills, right? So I don't know what I'm going to be doing or which role I'm going to be in 2-3 years time, but I have to remain curious to stay on top. So the ability to learn, to adapt, to remain relevant will become one of the strongest competitive advantages for people.
I love that. Lifelong learning is a survival skill.
Yeah.
That's powerful. That's really strong.
And if your question is, are we losing our entrepreneurial spirit with age? I don't think that's the case. And there is a statistic that says that the most successful entrepreneurs are in their 40s. If anything, I guess it just shifts from one place to another, evolves, and makes me curious about something else. And again, going back and revolving to the topic of kids, what keeps pushing me forward with what I do is that, for instance, my daughter keeps using the AI tools, and I encourage her to ask ChatGPT to do some of her homework or to generate stories or to generate images.
What excites you most about AI? What do you do on a daily basis that you say, wow?
That's a tough one. I think what excites me the most is the progress in the videos. That's not something I do on a daily basis, and maybe that's why the excitement comes. But the latest models have produced some really impressive cinematic pieces that I
Oh, it's
really,
unbelievable.
yes.
It's unbelievable. Yeah.
And I maybe again, because I'm mostly operating within the kind of office suite and productivity and automation, and I don't touch the kind of more medial aspect, that for me is the biggest kind of wow moment.
From what he's saying, like we're in a process of unlearning how we used to work with computers. Now we just need to speak and he will figure it out for you, right? So we're in a process of unlearning. And I think the new generation, as you mentioned, your daughter, for them, it comes intuitive, you know, it's just natural to them. Like when you give an iPad for a baby. So it's really exciting.
I agree.
Yeah. So I do have a question for you. So regarding data, how would you advise companies to learn their data using AI? Because a lot of company has enough data, but they actually don't see it properly. They don't know what's going on there. How would you advise them to see better, understand better, and act decisively on that?
That's a very delicate topic that you're touching on because many companies still don't recognize the data being a strategic asset, right? But
Yeah.
when you look at the data, and let's say your data is 80% correct in terms of the quality and accuracy, etc. But then it's still lacking 20%, right? And so if you train an AI model using that data, you lose another X number of percent because the model can't understand the full context and everything that you're trying to do. And then your effectiveness of that tool drops down to 60 or 70. And then you start questioning, like, what's better if I make my decision based on data or if I make my decision based on the AI tool and the response, or just on the fact that I flip the coin and I get a 50-50 kind of suggestion of what should be the next best action. So I think many companies still are sitting on the decades of untapped data and operational knowledge. And AI makes it possible to package this, to understand it. And it's not just data, but it's all the kind of context and different systems and processes that AI can actually unpack over there. I would encourage all the companies to start with this.
Bart, you're also Polish. You live in Dubai. How do you see the European business entrepreneurship integrating with Dubai? Like you're sitting in a really interesting intersection there. So how it's connected?
Thanks for that question. I wasn't expecting it, but I think, Poland has a lot to offer in terms of, for example, talent, and especially in IT and AI. So there are a number of companies that we're tapping into strategically, for example, for the workforce, for the thought process. Some of our staff are actually based out of Poland that handle, for instance, the AI PMO or business consulting activities. On the other hand, I think what Middle East has is this kind of push for entrepreneurship, for progress that is no longer than in Europe. So if you combine those two worlds, and we're trying to do that through the Polish Business Council in Dubai, we're trying to connect the best of two worlds and allow the companies from Poland to operate in the UAE and vice versa to kind of enter the markets more effectively. We also challenge a lot of things, challenge the status quo, which is not always great from a society or kind of governance perspective, but it does help with the independent thinking, and this is something that is valued a lot in the entrepreneurial.
So Bart, I'd like to end with a question, but I'll let you finish the question for the audience. What question do you want to leave them with?
So let's pause for a second, because that should be a good punchy question that makes it interesting and challenging for the next person.
Yes.
If you were to choose any job that you could do in 5 to 10 years, that is not actually a job, but something that you enjoy and you're passionate about, but it also brings you the benefit and the societal benefit for the society, what would that be? So what's your Ikigai in Japanese terms, right?
Yeah.
Considering the impact of AI.
I love it. It's a great question that I would like to sit with as well.
Okay.
It's a great one. If you had a magic wand and you can change anything, what would you do?
If I had a magic wand, I think I would stop the inequality, and I mean by this I would stop the conflicts. I would like for everyone to adopt the same model as we're living in the UAE, for example, where it works really well, and I'm always awed by how great this place is at bringing people together from different cultures and nationalities, where we're all kind of given equal chances. And as long as you're consistent, you stick to your values, then you're going to do well. Same chances. That would be the kind of ideal utopian world for me on day one.
All right. Bart, it was a pleasure having you on the show. I look forward to meeting you in Dubai, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Yaron. The pleasure was mine.